Could Raiders breaking news be coming soon? I'm going to talk about what that potential news is today here on the Raiders Report. But if you don't already know, join the Raiders Report family. Hit that subscribe button. I promise you this, there's not a person on this planet that's going to do a better job keeping all of Raider Nation up to date with all things going on around the silver and black in the 2026 offseason. On top of that, I can't freaking wait to watch Fernando Mendoza tonight up against Miami in the national championship. And you know what? I know I'm not the only important Raiders guy out there that's excited to see Mendoza. I'll talk about all that here in a little bit, but if you do not know, I am going to be live 1 hour before kickoff. Make sure you're subscribed. We're giving away a Fernando Mendoza jersey. You're not going to want to miss it. So coming up today here on the Raiders Report, Sean McDermott was fired by the Buffalo Bills. How exactly does that impact the silver and black? Mark Davis, he's down in Miami, and the Raiders are going to be doing a lot of things in Miami over the next 24 to 48 hours. And then at the very end of the show, I'm going to tell you what this head coaching news is, a little OC news in there as well, and it makes me think, where there's smoke, there's fire. Timing is everything in the NFL. And I wonder if we could be getting some breaking news tomorrow here on the Raiders Report. Now, the news that dropped this morning, I did a short on it earlier today on the channel, but the Bills are moving on from Sean McDermott after their loss in the divisional round of the Denver Broncos. This was confirmed by Schefter, Rappaport, all the NFL insiders out there. What I did think was interesting was Brandon Beane is going to remain. He's going to help lead the search for a new head coach. Personally, I thought if you're going to move on from McDermott, you probably should have moved on from Beane as well. McDermott's done a ton of great stuff for that organization, but I said it yesterday on the Raiders Report. If they ended up losing that game the way that they did, it's time to move on from your coach. And I know McDermott is a very well-liked and very well-respected coach, but if you look at that roster, how bad that team has gotten year after year after year after year, they've really just been asking for Josh Allen to save them. The Raiders do not have Josh Allen the last time that I checked. So as it stands right now, the NFL head coaching openings are all up here on screen. You got the Buffalo Bills, the Tennessee Titans, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Arizona Cardinals, Dolphins, and obviously the Silver and Black. I have been asked a bunch over the past, 3-4 hours of, hey, what do you think the jobs look like now for the best head coach openings in the National Football League? My unbiased opinion, this is what I'm going to go with. I believe the Bills have the best job out there because you have Josh Allen. Number two, I'm going to give the Baltimore. They got Lamar Jackson. They have a lot of other really good pieces out there. Some people might argue the Steelers' job is better than the Raiders' job, and the argument there is Pittsburgh never fires anybody. But if we're really looking at what each team has, I'm going to put the Raiders at number 3, Pittsburgh's at number 4, Titans 5, Browns 6, Cardinals 7, and then the Dolphins come in here at number 8. But the news that happened this morning was the Buffalo Bills decided to move on from Sean McDermott, somebody that has a winning record, somebody that's got 5 division titles, 8 playoff appearances since 2017, and again, a very well-respected coach in the National Football League. I asked you these questions when Mike Tomlin was fired. I asked you this question when Harbaugh was fired. It's my job to ask questions here, and I'm going to give you my opinion in just a moment. So you're about to get it with the YouTube ad break. The pinned comment on today's show is, should the Raiders consider hiring Sean McDermott? You let me know your answer. I'm going to let you know my answer right here after this YouTube ad break. With all due respect to Mr. McDermott, I am going to pass on him. I have a buddy who works for the Buffalo Bills, and he says nothing but kind things about him. And anybody that I've ever talked to in regards to McDermott says very, very kind things about him. However, though, I do think Josh Allen saved that roster. Now, you can make the argument, was it McDermott's fault? Was it, Beane's fault? That is kind of the situation we're dealing with. But at the end of the day, I believe that there are better coaching candidates out there for the Las Vegas Raiders. Because, again, people got to remember, it's not just about, is this coach better than this coach? It's about, does this coach fit the Las Vegas Raiders? I believe that there are other coaches out there that fit the Las Vegas Raiders' needs once going forward than Sean McDermott. But I do want to throw this out there because I do respect the opinion of Richie Incognito, former Raider. A lot of y'all always ask, hey, can Incognito be the offensive line coach? Richie told me he's still not interested in that job. But as you can see, Incognito say, hey, man, Sean McDermott, proven leader, consistent winner, culture builder, the kind of stability Vegas needs. I'm not saying that I don't agree with some of the things he says in there, But at the end of the day, there are better coaches out there for the Raiders. And I think, again, timing is everything in the NFL. I believe the Raiders have their eyes already on a certain coach. I believe the ball is already rolling in that direction. And with Sean McDermott getting fired today, Monday, January 19th, I think the ball is already rolling too much and too far for the Silver and Black to look at McDermott. Coming up next here on the show, Mark Davis news that you need to see. I don't typically talk about Mark a lot on this program because Mark is the owner of the Raiders, and that's really the only job that I want Mark to have with the Raiders. But I also am encouraged when Mark does things that smart business owners, smart football owners decide to do. And I am a believer that Mark Davis wants Fernando Mendoza to be the next Raiders quarterback because you know how much Mark loves money, okay? And right now, he's down in Miami. The Aces did play yesterday, and that's part of the reason why he's down there. But also on top of that, based on what I have heard, Mark has bought a massive suite at Hard Rock Stadium. A suite that Tom Brady, John Spytek, a few other important people of the Las Vegas Raiders, and even a few head coach candidates are going to be there. So the fact that Mark Davis is buying a suite for the national championship game, it's not to watch the Miami Hurricanes. It's not to watch the Indiana Hoosiers. It's to watch Fernando Mendoza, the likely number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. So the video that I dropped earlier today on the channel was, you got Mark, you got Brady, you got Spytek, you got a lot of really important Raiders people that are going to be at that game. You know why? They want Fernando Mendoza. And I believe they are trying to talk to coaches right now, this week, around, hey, tell me you're playing for Fernando. Tell me exactly how it's going to end up going down. I don't know how this game's going to end up going down, though. If you didn't see the video I put out yesterday, I gave you my Indiana and Miami prediction. But like I said to start this show, this is a game that's getting kicked off here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going live an hour before kickoff. We're giving away a Mendoza jersey. We're going to be going balls to the wall. And if you're a fan of the Silver and Black and you want Mendoza, I'm going to be dropping something today on the program that's going to blow your flipping mind. I promise you, you're not going to want to miss it. Coming up next here, though, I'm going to get into why I think that some Raiders breaking news could be happening tomorrow. And if it does end up going down, you already know I'm going to be ready. I went live for 11 hours and 35 minutes when the Raiders fired Pete Carroll. I went live for 26 straight hours when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. If y'all want me to go live for 11 hours, I'm going to put that ball in your court. But it depends how we show up and show out like we always do. You know who always shows up and shows out? PrizePicks, and they're the sponsor here on today's program. And listen to this, because the big game is almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. I'll be honest, my wife never really wanted to watch football. Then we started playing on PrizePicks, and now she's talking to me about who she's picking in her lineup. It's exciting. It gets us all a little bit more amped up for watching the game. Again, I always tell y'all to spam PP. So the fact that she's finally playing with my PrizePicks lineup, I think we can all agree that's really exciting. I don't know, you didn't think I was going to say that. So my power pick play that I'm rolling with for tonight's game is going to be, I got a stack with Fernando Mendoza. I'm watching Mendoza. I'm rooting for Mendoza. $5 to pay 11 for pick power play. At the end of the day, whether I win, whether I lose, I have fun watching, because for you to have an opportunity to win some money and 3 hours of entertainment, it just doesn't exist in today's day and age. So give me the more on Carson Beck. Give me the more on Mendoza for everything you see up there on screen. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, passing completions. I want the more on Mendoza. I also want Mendoza in the Silver and Black. So if you want to get started, it's available in all 50 states. You can play $5. You get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So, where there's smoke, there's fire. Timing is everything in the NFL. These are things that I say all the time. And I want to just say very, very importantly, I'm not reporting news. I am a Raiders fan just like all of y'all, but through the years of me doing this show, I don't think there's anybody better in the game at being able to connect dots, being able to say where there's smoke, there's fire, and I do think that following rumors are extremely, extremely important because you can get information like this. So Mark Davis, John Spytek, and Tom Brady, they're all down in Miami. They already interviewed Mike McDaniel today, former Dolphins head coach. They interviewed him today. I want to be very clear. I was told by a source that this interview was way more of an offensive coordinator interview, more so than a head coaching interview. And this excites me because I have said, I don't know how many times on this program, the number one offensive coordinator that I would want for the silver and black is Mike McDaniel, a run-first guy who's been able to show you can get it done in the pass game, who's been able to show you can get it done in the ground game. And again, man, if you're telling me I can get 21 touchdowns out of 2023 Raheem Mostert, imagine what this dude would be able to do with Ashton Genty. But my biggest concern for McDaniel was, could he take another job? And I have been told that the Raiders are contemplating offering him $7 to $8 million to be the next OC. They gave Chip Kelly $6 million last year, and he was the highest paid OC. Mark, from what I understand, is going to even up that number to bring in Mr. McDaniel. But the top two teams that I was worried that McDaniel would go to, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions. I'll admit, I was shocked when I found out the news today that the Detroit Lions are working on a deal to finalize it with Drew Petzing as their next offensive coordinator. Apparently, Petzing has got some interesting ties to Ben Johnson, so that's why Detroit decided to go in that direction. But with Detroit off the board, I think it's between Philadelphia and the Raiders. And I'm not saying that the Eagles' job isn't a good job. Obviously it is. But you could make an argument that that job and everything around that offense right now, there's a lot more chaos around that offense. I personally think there is. And if you're McDaniel, you go, well, actually, if I go to that team and we draft a quarterback number 1 overall, I actually have more job security in Las Vegas than I do in Philadelphia. That's my personal opinion. Let's go to the next reason here why I think some breaking news could be happening. I originally thought that the Ejiro Evero interview was supposed to happen today on January 19th, so I do apologize for getting that one wrong. I was told that he was going to interview. I assumed it was going to be on Monday. It's actually going to be on Tuesday, but the timings of the interviews are interesting because you interview Mike McDaniel on Monday. That one's already done. The next interview I believe the Raiders have scheduled is Ejiro Evero, the Panthers defensive coordinator. I'm not saying this because it's the only reason why they're interviewed. I'm saying it because it's context, and context is important when you're considering hiring a next head coach. Mike McDaniel, in-person interview. Ejiro Evero, in-person interview. In order for you to hire a head coach, you have to interview at least 2 candidates of a minority, and that is what's known as the Rooney Rule. Mike McDaniel is a minority coach. Ejiro Evero is a minority coach. Rooney Rule satisfied, which means the Raiders then, after these interviews, could hire the next guy. The next interview they got scheduled, Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. In-person interview. The number one name that I have heard for the longest time has been Minter. He's got ties to John Spytek. He's got ties to Brady. I've done so many videos on this. In fact, the first time I did a video on the Raiders eyeing Jesse Minter was all the way back in early December. If this is the first time that you're hearing about the Raiders being interested in Minter, I hope that you have learned something on today's show, and I hope that I can earn your respect and hit that subscribe button. If you don't learn anything from this program after a day or two, after a week, unsubscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. But I think the timing is interesting. The other thing that I think is very interesting is some people have been like, well, Mitch, the Raiders have an interview with Jeff Hafley on Wednesday. I'm going to tell you this right now. That interview ain't happening. And the reason why that interview ain't happening is either they're going to hire Jesse Minter or Jeff Hafley's going to take the job with the Miami Dolphins. So, again, all of these interviews are supposed to happen in Miami. The reason why this one's scheduled is because Hafley's going to do essentially what John Harbaugh did with the Titans. Oh, all right, we're going to have an interview on Thursday with the Titans. I'm going to interview with the Giants on Wednesday. That interview did not happen. Just like this Jeff Hafley interview, it ain't going to happen. So when I'm thinking about everything happening, this ain't happening, which tells me that I believe the breaking news that could happen tomorrow is that the Las Vegas Raiders could end up hiring Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter on Tuesday. Mike McDaniel interview was for an offensive coordinator job, and because the Raiders, what they did last year, Pete Carroll, defensive mind, Chip Kelly, offensive mind, OC. I wonder if they're going to do something exactly the same way where you go out, you hire a defensive minded guy in Jesse Minter. He's going to be your head coach. He's going to handle a lot of the defense. Then you go out and you get an offensive coordinator with head coach experience in a Mike McDaniel. This is an organization that really, really likes McDaniel. They trust him a lot in terms of the trees that he's come from. But the timing of all of this tells me that I really think that the Raiders' breaking news could be happening tomorrow is the Silver and Black hiring Jesse Minter to be their next head coach. Again, these are rumors. This is speculatory, but I feel like I'm really good at being speculatory on this program. And I promise y'all, if the Raiders hire Minter, I will be live. You better be ready to party. You better be ready to get wet and wild. I don't care if it's Tuesday at 10 a.m. I don't care if it's Tuesday at 10 p.m. I'm going to be here breaking it all down, and I know for a flying fact that all of the real ones will be here too. So if you made it this far in the show and you're like, hey, I'm going to be there when the Raiders announce their head coach, give me a real one down below. I'll see all y'all here in a little bit. Indiana, Miami, national championship to watch future Raiders quarterback Fernando Mendoza.